How are you? This is Eddie Muller, and since you asked, I'm doing fine. Welcome back to my corner of the TCM universe. Since Noir Alley began, we've offered you some esteemed examples of film noir, as well as some relative obscurities. I've tried to balance the program between B movies and top-of-the-line A titles, mirroring the way folks experienced picture shows when these films were originally released. As I hope you've realized by now, back in the day, B signified a low-budget genre film, typically less than 80 minutes, compared to the longer, costlier, and more prestigious A pictures. Today's film, Desperate, is a bona fide B. It runs only 73 minutes, and it was crafted on a minuscule budget. But when it came to advancing the film noir movement, Desperate had great significance. It was the first in a series of exceptional noir dramas directed by Anthony Mann, arguably the greatest American-born director in a genre dominated by European-trained filmmakers. Mann had worked as an actor and director on Broadway and served his movie apprenticeship under David O. Selznick. But it wasn't until he began directing programmers for the B units at Republic, PRC, and Paramount that Mann began to really hone his talent. Desperate, made for the B unit at RKO and released in 1947, was the first time the director felt he'd created an Anthony Mann film. The story, co-credited to Mann and Dorothy Atlas, is almost cartoonishly simple. You could drive a truck through some of the plot holes, but its simplicity plays to Mann's strengths, creating dynamic life-and-death confrontations that feel both mythic and scarily intimate. He's helped immeasurably by cinematographer George Discant, whose work here is the equal of such famous noir-centric DPs as John Alton and Nicholas Musuraca. In only his fourth feature film assignment as director of photography, he creates a mood second to none. Anthony Mann, by the way, is the reigning kingpin of Noir Alley. This is the fourth of his films that we've shown, after Raw Deal, T-Men, and Side Street. Now don't worry, there is still more to come. Mann left quite an impression in Noir Alley before staking his claim to the widescreen Technicolor Wild West of the 1950s. Actor Steve Brody has also been something of a fixture in Noir Alley, having appeared in Out of the Past, Crossfire, and Armored Car Robbery. But today's film was special for him. It was his first and only starring role.
You're too late. You're too late because they're gonna burn Al tonight. You're too late because my wife and kid are someplace you can't touch them. All you got's me.
Right now, you're all I want.
Brody was one of those actors stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was good-looking, but didn't possess genuine leading man charisma. As a character actor, he had no distinguishing physical or vocal characteristics to set him apart. Even his real name was plain, John Stevens. When he was vying for roles early in his career, he was inspired to suddenly change his name to Steve Brody, in honor of the famous New York bookmaker and daredevil who jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge as a publicity stunt in 1886. After that, he never looked back. Now, what he lacked in uniqueness, Brody made up for with professionalism and versatility, typically playing a friend or foe of the leading man. And Out of the Past, probably his most famous role, he was both, starting out as Robert Mitchum's private eye partner and ending up in a furious fistfight with his former pal, before getting plugged by Jane Greer. Now, according to Kevin Brody, the actor's son, his father first met Mitchum when both of them were serving time on a Georgia chain gang. Mitch was in for vagrancy, and Brody for running moonshine across state lines. And once loose, the pair headed for Hollywood together. After scuffling around for a few years, Brody landed a short-lived contract at MGM, where he had bit parts in Tony studio concoctions like The Clock and Anchors Away. But when MGM dropped him, Brody found his real home, RKO Radio Pictures, the House of Noir. It also meant a reunion with his pal Mitchum, also under contract to RKO. In fact, they lived together during those heady days in '46 and '47 when Mitchum was starting his steady rise to stardom. It was a good time for Steve Brody, too, as the 6 movies he made for RKO in 1947 kick-started what would be a long career, virtually all of it spent in westerns and crime pictures. In one of those 1947 films, a 57-minute B-Western called Code of the West, Brody performed with a young actor named Raymond Burr, appearing in only his 3rd picture. And once he landed the lead in Desperate, Brody begged Anthony Mann to cast Burr as his nemesis. And so began Burr's run as the heaviest heavy of the noir era. And we have Steve Brody to thank for it. From 1947, with a screenplay by Harry Essex and additional dialogue by Martin Rankin, here's Desperate.